So you're traveling and you want to visit a different country, but you don't know the language. Is that a problem? In this video, we're going to tell you everything that you need to know about visiting a country whose language you don't speak. So first things first, let's not hide the ball. Can you go to countries where you don't speak the language? Absolutely. Not speaking the language should almost never be a reason not to visit a country. I'm assuming that you're an English speaker based on the fact that you're watching this video and I'm speaking in English. So certain countries are going to be easier for you than others. For English speakers, even to the untrained ear, some languages are going to be easier to understand than others. For example, if you go to a Spanish-speaking country, a French-speaking country, German, maybe even Italian, you'll probably be able to pick up on some of the words just because the root is very similar. Whereas if you travel in China, India, Thailand, Vietnam, you're probably not going to understand a single sound that comes out of certain people's mouths. That said, that shouldn't dissuade you from visiting. So what are you supposed to do? First things first, and probably one of the most obvious things, is learn a little bit of the language. There are so many tools out there that you can use, whether it's something like Duolingo, practicing with Google Translate, getting an Audible book that does a little bit of translation, Rosetta Stone, whatever you want. There's something out there that can help you in your learning style. The important thing to note here is that you do not need to become even close to fluent. You just need to be able to say super basic things that most people need. Examples of good things to learn: hello, excuse me, I'm sorry, can you speak English? That is probably one of the best. Bathroom, where is, this costs. And honestly, if you can say a few of these words, so many doors will open for you. For example, there is a stereotype that A, most French people don't speak English, and B, that they're kind of rude to you. The reality is that many French people, especially below the age of 40, do speak virtually perfect English. The thing that they don't appreciate is when you run up to them and start barking at them in English. If you can say, I'm sorry, I don't speak French, or I'm sorry, can we speak in English? 99% of them will be super happy to just turn over and start speaking to you in English with a smile on their face. Putting in just a little bit of effort in someone's native language can make all the difference in how you're treated. The next thing that you can do to make your life a bit easier is, my friend, we are living in a great time of great technology. There are so many translation apps out there. Definitely use one. They've gotten so good that you can literally dictate to them and it will say what you want to say in the native language. Additionally, for example, in apps like Google Translate, you can literally just hold up your camera to a menu or a list that's in a foreign language, and it will live translate all of the text for you into whatever language you want. Another thing to note about these apps is oftentimes you can download the languages onto your phone. So even if you don't have internet access, as long as your phone has a charge, you should be able to translate and communicate with people. An old school thing that people used to do was carry a phrase book. But now I would suggest just doing that in your phone. You can whip it out, you can ask people, you can literally point and say, do you have this, if you're not quite confident enough to try to sound it out. And most of the time, they'll be perfectly happy to help you. Now, this fourth thing is something that has saved my butt personally many times, and I have seen it work with many people all over the world. And that's nonverbal communication. There is a ton of nonverbal communication that is pretty much universal everywhere in the world you go. I'd like to check. I'm hungry. I need to go left, straight, right. And then obviously there are plenty of things that you can do to indicate that you have to go to the bathroom. I'll leave it up to you to figure out which one you want to use. You'd really be stunned how far you can get with simple pointing and nodding. Now, you might not be able to express your deepest hopes and dreams and tell people the meaning of life, but you'd be pretty surprised how far you can get. You can definitely get from point A to point B, order a meal, find a bathroom, and tell people generally what you need and understand their responses, just with nonverbal communication. The next thing that you're gonna have to do, and this I think is true of almost all travel and all situations in general, be patient. Remember that it's not your home country. You are a visitor in their land and a visitor to their culture and to their language. So don't get frustrated with people if they don't understand what you're saying. Don't raise your voice. Don't shout. Take your time, use some of the tools that we've discussed, and do your best to communicate. Keep a smile on your face, because that's universally nice, and just try to maintain your patience. I can't tell you how many situations I've seen where someone was trying to communicate with someone else, and neither of them had any idea what the other was trying to say. But because they were nice and because they were patient and they smiled, one of them actually went away, got someone else, and came back with someone who could actually translate. Just being patient and smiling will get you very far. The other thing that you can do that's pretty obvious is use maps and pictures. Those are pretty much universal. If you want chicken, show a picture of a chicken or something that you want. It makes perfect sense to 99.9% of people. Furthermore, especially with taxis and Ubers and Lyfts and everything, if you have an address or you can show them generally where you want to go on a map, they'll be able to figure out and take you there. Most of what we've covered thus far is pretty much applicable to anywhere you are in the world. Whether you're backpacking through a jungle or you're in the middle of one of the biggest metropolises in the world. But there are things that you can do in terms of where you travel that can also be particularly helpful. For example, one of the most obvious things that you can do is stay in a tourist-friendly area. The likelihood that people speak English in tourist areas is dramatically higher than in non-touristy areas. It's just what they're used to. So if you're really uncomfortable with not being able to speak the language, just pick an area that's known to be frequented by tourists. Things should be pretty easy there. And the last thing that we'll discuss in this quick video is just doing a little bit of research. You may find that you may be able to communicate much easier than you think, or you might find that it's going to be incredibly difficult. But knowing a bit about where you're going and who you're going with will make all the difference in how you can communicate. Don't worry about going to a place where you don't speak the language. It's gonna be fine. People, for the vast majority of situations, are really nice. So remember to stay calm, do a little research, put in a little bit of effort, and get out there and explore. Don't let your fear of not speaking a language be the reason that you don't actually get to experience a culture.